Boy, these conservatives are really something, aren't they? They're all in favor of the unborn. They will do anything for the unborn. But once you're born, you're on your own. Pro-life conservatives are obsessed with the fetus from conception to 9 months. After that, they don't want to know about you. They don't want to hear from you. No nothing. No neonatal care, no daycare, no Head Start, no school lunch, no food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. If you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked. You're fucked. Conservatives don't give a shit about you until you reach military age. Then they think you are just fine, just what they've been looking for. Conservatives want live babies so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. Pro-life. Pro-life. These people aren't pro-life, they're killing doctors. What kind of pro-life is that? What, they'll do anything they can to save a fetus, but if it grows up to be a doctor, they just might have to kill it? They're not pro-life. You know what they are? They're anti-woman. Simple as it gets. Anti-woman. They don't like it. They don't like women. They believe a woman's primary role is to function as a broodmare for the state.
And hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. How the heck are you? I am Diana Clarion, the Lavender Lady. This is Coffee with Lavender, and I'm glad to have you folks by. Today is kind of a sad day, if you want to call it that. The topic is one I really don't want the necessity of talking about, but unfortunately it's in our faces right now. We've got to do something about it. With the latest draconian legislature that's coming out of legislation, sorry about that, that's been coming out of Ohio and Georgia and Alabama, Missouri, and more, many more, and they're going to be coming fast and furious now. We've got to talk about reproductive rights. We've got to talk about abortion. And here to talk with me about it is the one, the only, the brilliant, the beautiful Mrs. Engineer, Kaitlyn Chloe. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me. That's the best intro I've ever had.
We try for that. I take it you've been looking at the news lately, and geez, yeah. What have you been thinking as you've been looking at it?
Oh, it's been pretty dreadful, and you know, I'm from Ohio.
Oh, you are?
I am. I'm from Ohio, and I lived there until I left for college, and then I lived in Kentucky, and now I live in Alabama. So this is a really important topic for everybody. It's not just because I live in a state that's done it, because the goal of these laws in all of the states isn't to pass the legislation and implement it in their state. The goal is to get the laws, basically the appeals system, inundated and get this topic back to the Supreme Court so they can overturn Roe. That's the whole point of this thing. So it affects everybody, but yeah, it's been in the news a lot, and you know, I get really mad at CNN. I actually tweeted at CNN the other day because it was the day after Alabama, or the governor Kay Ivey signed the law, and I turn on CNN, and literally all they're talking about is Trump, about, you know, the normal Trump stuff that matters, yes, but like I'm like, people, why are we not talking about this? And they'd passed Georgia's law at that time. And I don't know if you know, but CNN headquarters is in Atlanta.
Oh, so, right.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, CNN, when are you moving out of Georgia? Like, let's actually, if you're going to talk about it and you're going to, you know, take a standpoint like this, you know, like The Walking Dead, film somewhere else other than Atlanta. Like, you know, film other places. And I'm not a big proponent of, if you don't like the laws, move. Like I've seen a lot of that.
Well, sometimes you just can't.
You can't, and individuals can't. Like, your family's here, and you know, it's your jobs are here, and you know, the people that you grew up around, or the people that you know, made a community with, your whole entire life is where you live. So it's really difficult to just tell people, if you don't like it, leave. That's really not feasible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it is a good way that companies can make a statement and pull revenue from the state. And it it hurts the state. It does, and this is the hard part, it does hurt citizens of the state
Yeah.
temporarily, but a lot of times just the threat of it will get the state to do what basically the right thing.
Now, this may sound like a stupid question, but let's remember that with all the keywords that I've thrown in here, we're hopefully going to get people outside of the community and possibly, hopefully, people that don't agree with us.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so necessary to have the access to abortion, to have the reproductive rights that we know we need it, but why is it that we do?
I mean, I think it's really important. One, because the death rate of pregnant women is actually a lot higher when they don't have access to abortion. Because it's interesting, you hear a lot of when people are talking about the gun rights, and a lot of Second Amendment activists will say, well, even if you make laws even if you outlaw guns, people are still going to get guns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so even if you outlaw abortion, people are still going to get abortions, but they're not going to be as safe. They're going to be exorbitantly expensive. And here's the other thing. Even if you have fewer abortions, you're going to have higher rates of child poverty. You're going to have higher rates of poverty in general. You're going to have less reproductive education because, I mean, Planned Parenthood, people want to demonize Planned Parenthood all over the place. Number one, tax money has never gone to pay for abortion ever. Number two, Planned Parenthood does, in relation to all of the things that they do, abortion is like 3% of what they do.
Right.
The rest of what they do is sex education. They provide birth control. And one of the things I want to talk about is, don't let me forget, Ohio is working on another law.
Yes.
To restrict the insurance from paying for types of birth control. So when you have less birth control, you have more unplanned pregnancies. There is no logic in what they're doing, and all of these things result in bad things. Look, I don't think most people are. No one's pro-abortion. Like, I don't want to have an abortion, and most people who have them don't want to be having them either.
Right.
Difficult choice, but it's a necessary choice that we need to be able to have, a necessary option. So
yeah, and I know, were I to have the hardware that would support a pregnancy, I don't know that I would gleefully run to a provider and have an abortion. I mean, the option's got to be there, yes, absolutely, but yeah, a lot of us will think twice or even three times before taking that step. Now, the thing is, the way Ohio did it, and the way especially Alabama, yeah, and I did pronounce it that way, did it, it is cruel, absolutely, totally cruel, to the point where Pat Robertson, said that this was going too far. Why do they have to do it this way?
Well, to be fair, the reason that the Ohio law and the Alabama law are so bad is because they are the only two, as of right now, that do not allow for an exemption for incest or rape. So basically, people who are victims of rape and get pregnant from that don't have the option to get an abortion.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why they're so bad. But Pat Robertson, let's be fair. It is true he said it, and it shocked the hell out of me too. Even Tomi Lahren is saying that, or Tommy, you know who I'm talking about.
The person I would like to trot all over. Yeah.
She's dreadful. She's speaking out against these too. But in the case of Pat Robertson, he's come out and said it's not even about the fact that the laws are too restrictive to women's health care. It's about the fact that he doesn't think if those laws were taken to the Supreme Court that they would win because they're
Yes.
too restrictive. So it's not even a moral thing for him. It's I don't think we can win at the Supreme Court with that particular one.
Yeah. The amazing thing is, I cannot remember her first name.
It's Tomi.
The Alabama legislator.
Oh, the one who wrote it?
Yes. What the hell is her name again? I lost it. Guys, keep in mind in the audience, when you get old, the memory is the second thing to go. And, I cannot tell you. I cannot remember what the first is. Anyway.
I can't remember what her name is either. But she's actually just from one town over from where we live. And it is, a lot of people find it shocking because I know that it's been put out a lot, the image with all the people who voted for the Alabama bill, and you've got 25 older white men that voted for it and no women. And so, well, to be fair, there are very few women in the Alabama legislature anyway.
Right.
But, yeah, and they're all Democrats. There are no Republican women. But a woman wrote it. A woman wrote that bill.
And let's keep in mind, folks, that not all women oppose abortion. Let's keep that. Let's keep that in mind, because it's a misjudgment that a lot of people do make.
Yeah.
Mark Caesar, I just gave John a spanner. He's good. Anyway, Kaitlyn.
But it's interesting because I told Dear Mr. Atheist, Jimmy put a Twitter thing out, and he wanted your pro or ex pro-life stories. Like, when did you realize, or when did you become, or why did you become ex pro-life? Because a lot of people who are atheists now, not all, of course, but a lot of people, they started out being indoctrinated into religion by their parents. I know that I did. And so I was I thought I was pro-life. So he wanted people's ex pro-life stories. So I told him, and this is it was really strange because I always was pro-life. I made the posters. I went to the because I also went to Catholic school, so we would do the posters.
I am so sorry.
I did. So we would do the posters in school. We would do the marches and all those kinds of things. Pro-life, and of course, pro babies. Babies are awesome. Babies should live, right? Well, so I always thought that I would never have an abortion. All right. That was me. I would never have an abortion. But I also always thought that it wasn't the government's job to tell people that they couldn't. But I didn't realize that meant I was pro-choice. I was on the phone with my former sister-in-law one day, and she was like, she just started asking me questions about it. And she was like, so your personal choice would be not to have one? And I was like, yes. And she was like, but do you think that you should be allowed to tell other people they can't have one, or they can't choose to have one? And I said, no. And she said, do you think the government should be allowed to tell people that they can't choose to have one? And I said, no. And she said, okay, do you see how many times I use the word choose?
Yes.
And I was like, and she was like, that's pro-choice. She was like, pro-choice doesn't mean pro-abortion. Pro-choice means you support people's right to choose what's right for them. And just because it may not be right for you, that doesn't make you pro-life. So it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I realized that day that I was not pro-life, and I never was. I just didn't know that.
The other thing about the whole pro-life thing is, as far as I'm concerned, I'm hearing the anti-choice folks, the anti-abortion folks, misusing that term pro-life because, as was the case in the opening piece from George Carlin that we played on the way into this, the people who are opposing abortion only care about the fetus from conception to 9 months. Once that fetus is born, no decent education, no decent housing, no Head Start, no food stamps, no nothing. Is that pro-life really? Is it?
No, I mean, of course not. Because, I mean, if you look at the state of Alabama, and I don't know all the exact statistics, but we are very close. I think we're 49th in education among the United States.
Last I checked, it was 50.
Is it, we're, okay, so we're bad. We're
Yeah,
bad.
you're bad. Unfortunately.
Um,
Unfortunately.
we're extremely high in, low, we're bad at healthcare and obesity. We're bad at all kinds of things here in the South. There's, in states where you have um, an extreme, and I know this isn't really the topic, but in states where you have higher levels of extreme religiosity, you have a lot more problems. You have more poor people. And you know what's interesting is that the government, like you said, and people who are religious, because this is a religiously based bill. I mean, obviously, it has no basis in anything
Right.
other than religion. So when you have things like this happen, they once the baby's born, they people then, you know, yay pro life. Those same people are pointing at that single mom. Yay, coffee. um, they're pointing at that single mom, bitching about their tax money going to help her pay for a home, bitching for their tax money going to help her pay for food for the kid, bitching about all the kinds of things. And it's like, I don't understand this. I also saw a story. Um, the guy who led the committee in Alabama to pass the bill was asked about protections for frozen embryos, frozen fertilized embryos.
Oh, yes.
And,
I know what's
and
coming. Just tell the rest of the people that.
yeah, so if they believe that life starts at fertilization, at conception, conception is when the egg is fertilized by the sperm, then fertilized embryos would require the same protections as, you know,
Yeah.
a fertilized embryo inside. Outside and inside should have the same protections, but
Right.
they don't. And the interesting thing is, he was like, well, because it's not inside the woman.
Uh huh.
So
Isn't that something?
yeah, it's about controlling the woman and her body and her sexuality. This is not about a baby.
Right. And, okay, Kaitlyn, it looks like we may have lost your audio.
Oh, um, should I just
Okay,
refresh?
you're back now. You're back now.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
this happens a little bit. So, what was it that you said over the last, say, 10, 15 seconds?
Oh, well, he basically said that the frozen fertilized embryos aren't life, even though they believe in life starting at conception, which is fertilization. That the frozen ones don't count, and don't there's not a clause in the law for protecting those because they're not inside the woman's body. So really, truly, it is about controlling the woman's body and her sexuality. It is not about a baby.
Oh, indeed. And if you see on the protest marches, that sort of thing, if you see the red cloak and the white hat,
Mm-hmm.
no, they're not. They're they're not overdoing it, guys. We're headed that way,
It's
toward the Handmaid's Tale.
it's scary.
Yeah, because you've got that, and whatever her name was, like she even said, yeah, this is just about getting this legislation passed so we can go for Roe v. Wade. We can get that overturned. And then maybe after that's happened, notice maybe we can
Yeah.
add some protections. It's like, you're not going to do that. If you're not putting them in now, you're not going to put them in at all. And with what Ohio has been doing, as you say, with restricting access to birth control. What is the best way to reduce the number of abortions, kids? Raise your hands now. It wouldn't be preventing conceptions in the first place, now, would it?
Yeah,
I mean,
that would be the best way.
seriously. And yet they don't want that either. Um,
Yeah. And what's interesting is Kay Ivey, our governor, when she signed the bill, she said, let's see, to the bill's many supporters, this legislation stands as a powerful testament to Alabamians' deeply held belief that every life is precious and that every life is a sacred gift from God. I was really pissed when I read. I was really mad when I heard that
Every
because,
sperm is sacred.
yeah, because if they succeed, I mean, all of these laws are unconstitutional and they all know it. But if they succeed in getting these laws to the Supreme Court and get Roe overturned, they will. I know a lot of people will say this is a slippery slope, but it's true. The more creep that they can have with inserting Christian morals into
Right.
our laws, they will. They
Mm-hmm.
will. And we have to stop them.
And that
We
was
have.
my, yeah, that was my next. I mean, I was going to ask you, and I think you've already answered it. Do you see this leading toward a Christian Sharia, as I do? Uh,
Mhm.
I know that when I had Aaron Ra on my show last week, I think he had
Mhm.
mentioned there that he knew of people who were advocating for Levitical law in the U.S. Levitical
Mhm.
law, kids, getting stoned to death for working on weekends. Now let's think about that, okay?
Mhm.
It's not stopping where we are here, and the thing I'm wondering is, I see that Luciano is in the side chat. We may have a little bit of a discussion with him on this later. Do you at all see whatever they might try to do next if Roe is upheld? I mean, they're not going to quit. Can you predict
No,
where they're going to head?
no, they're not going to quit. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do if Roe is upheld. I talked to not last week, the week before, I talked to Andrew Seidel on my show Opinionated.
Okay,
Um, Andrew Seidel is a director. He's an attorney at the at the Freedom from Religion Foundation,
right.
and he recently wrote a book, and it's about. And now I forget what it's called, and I did have it over here, but now I don't. It's about the idea that we're not a Christian nation. It's about the separation of church and state. And if I can pull up my Amazon orders, I can tell you what the title of the book is. And I feel really bad because I'm terrible at promoting, obviously. So, okay, it's called The Founding Myth: Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American. And he talks about a lot of this stuff, and they see all kinds of cases. And it was a little scary because I want someone like Andrew to tell me they're not going to be able to overturn Roe. Like I want someone with his level of education, his level of experience, I want confidence from him that that's not going to happen. And do you know what he said to me on my show?
I can
He
guess.
said he said within 3 years they will overturn Roe. And I was just like, what? Like that's not possible. And so it was really upsetting to hear that. And I mean, he may be wrong. He's not. I mean, he's obviously not the Supreme Court.
Oh, right,
Um,
right.
but I really like, I don't know, as just a citizen of this country and as somebody who believes in people having, civil rights and equal rights, I don't like to hear regression happening. Like the idea of that happening is pretty upsetting. And so I don't know. I don't know what they'll do next, but I did tell him that this whole thing seems like um, the death throes. And kind of what I mean by that is religiosity is decreasing all over the United States. This next generation of kids growing up, they're not going to church. Like they're just not. They think that in general, a lot of times that church rules and doctrine and dogma are silly and draconian, and they're not buying it, which is excellent. Like that's great. But I feel like the more extreme, not even totally extreme, but the more extreme branches of the Christian uh, group are scared, they're worried, and they're losing control. And so I feel like they're doing whatever they can do to try to get that back. And I think they're going to lose. I hope they're going to lose. But the way the court system is stacked right now, I'm not sure.
Well, neither am I. I know that with the two young men who have been recently seated, Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch,
Mm-hmm.
I I'm not going to see the end of their terms. I am going to predecease the end of their terms. What I'm afraid of is, more stacking toward the conservative side. This is what we warned everyone about 3 years ago. Be careful how you vote because the Supreme Court hangs in the balance. Well, guess what? The balance is now tipped, and I wonder, and I'm going to want to talk to Luciano either, say, in an after show or on another show. Well, we'll see how it works. What the possibilities are that either side would try for a constitutional amendment, for example, especially the opposition. I see Wonder Lady, I see Faye saying a few things, which is really, really important stuff here. First of all, she said, I'll paraphrase, we need to allow people to be sterilized without the permission of boyfriends or partners. And this is an amazing thing, that is actually considered necessary in, almost all jurisdictions?
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard about this, but Arkansas is actually working on a bill that would require the husband or the person who impregnated the woman that they would have to have their permission to be able to get an abortion, and that if a woman gets an abortion without that permission, the man can sue her and the doctor who performed the abortion. Yeah. This is crazy. This shit is crazy. In Alabama, any doctor who performs an abortion can get 10 to 99 years in prison. 99. You don't even go to prison for 99 years for raping someone.
There you go. The poor woman who was raped and needs an abortion because she's been impregnated during that rape. Her doctor for performing that abortion will get a heavier sentence than the son of a bitch that raped her in the first place. What the hell is going on here, kids? Really?
It's a mess. It is a mess.
And then we have another one she had said. This is the one that really got to me. Saw the article a couple of days ago as well, Wonder Lady. Children born out of wedlock not being citizens. The article I saw was dealing with a gay couple who had a child via surrogacy in Canada, tried coming to the U.S. and getting that child's citizenship, and it's not working because the system, whatever you want to call it, is denying that. So they're attacking on all fronts, if you will.
I have not actually heard about that, and that's pretty horrifying. Like, it's a person's choice whether or not they want to get married, and they shouldn't have to get married if they don't want to get married. Like, I don't understand. And if you have kids outside, look, one of the I don't know if you know who Godless Mom is. She's a blogger.
Yes. She's a great person. I love her.
She is lovely. She's a wonderful person. She and her partner are not married and have no intention of ever getting married, and they have kids together and they have a wonderful family. I don't understand the need to control. Now, she's Canadian, so this really doesn't impact her, but I don't understand the need to control people's lives like this. It doesn't make any sense other than religion says to.
I just dragged up the article here, and it's crazy in its specificity here, because it's in the Daily Beast, dateline May 15th of this year. Trump administration to LGBT couples: you are, quote, out of wedlock, end quote, kids aren't citizens. What we have here, let's see what we have. Okay, it was as straightforward as one can imagine, Roe told the Daily Beast. Roe is one of the fathers, recalling the ease of bringing Lev, the child, home in late 2016, the infant's newly printed Canadian passport in hand, soon to be supplanted by an American one. But this February, when Kessem's Kessem is the child, so
Hmm.
I'm missing who, perhaps Lev is the other father, contacted the U.S. consulate in Calgary to obtain a consular report of birth abroad for their daughter, the legal equivalent of a birth certificate for Americans born outside the United States. Something was different this time. They first indicated that they needed proof of our marriage, which I found quite odd, Roe said. They needed the original marriage certificate, which we didn't have with us, but I didn't actually think anything more about it. I thought we don't have time for this. We'll just deal with it in the U.S. Another paragraph here, but Kessem was about to become the latest victim of a government policy that effectively de-recognizes her parents' marriage, granting her no automatic rights to American birthright citizenship, despite the fact that both her fathers are U.S. citizens. Basically, how this is happening is you're delegitimizing the gay marriage, the marriage of two men here, and also calling the child's birth out of wedlock because it was done through surrogacy. Now you're denying that kid birthright citizenship, even though both of the parents were American citizens. And what was the other one I was going to say? Okay, I lost it, but we can go with that from there. Like I say, don't get old; it isn't worth it. So there too, there's another attack.
Yeah,
On what we
there are
got going here.
yeah, there are several states who have legislation that has passed that allows adoption agencies to not let LGBT couples adopt children. And that's horrifying. And I may not be in a I may not be in a relationship with another woman, but one thing they do here in Alabama is there are adoption agencies in at least in northern Alabama. There is not an adoption agency that adopts to anyone that is not an active Christian. So like I can't have kids. I was born with a condition where I can't have kids. So we started looking into adoption. Well, here in northern Alabama, because we're atheists, we also can't adopt a child. So we have to go outside. Luckily, John found a place in Birmingham where we can go, but it's only one place. And so it's similar things where if you're not Christian, you can't do all kinds of things. And it's interesting that Christian people talk about being so persecuted, but they have all of these special privileges that other people don't get. And here's the thing with LGBT couples, there are a lot of LGBT couples that are Christian also.
Yeah, why? I have no idea, but they are.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't get it either. I don't get it, but that's up to them entirely. So it's just they're Christians also, and they are no look, they're no less prepared to be a parent than anybody else is. You know what I mean? Like as long as you can love a kid and teach a kid and help guide a kid and get them to the point where they can be a productive member of society, like that's the goal, right? I don't understand why it matters so much that you have to be a Christian or can't be LGBT.
And I got what I missed earlier, and it's a good thing because we can bring this up because the problem that we have here is that, okay, were you and John able to have a child, the natural way? Of course, that child would be considered born out of wedlock, but there would be an assumption of parentage, as they call it. And they would assume, the system would assume that, yeah, you're a parent, John's a parent. That does not exist for queer couples.
No.
And that's, unless you're talking about a lesbian who carries her own child, via in vitro, if I remember correctly. But there is a definite, not a discontinuity, there's a difference in the way people are treated. And one
Well,
would think that the 14th Amendment would cover this, but I guess not, huh?
no, of course not. And then with even with lesbian couples, if the one woman carries it, there are still issues with the other woman being considered the parent.
Yes, there
Also,
are. Yes, there
there's
are.
still issues with that. So it's a mess, and there's really no reason for it. No reason for it.
And where is the pro-life there? Because the kid, has a better life, or at least I'm thinking anyway, without all the legal hassles of, who are the parents, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, by placing those legal roadblocks in the way, you are decreasing the quality of that kid's life.
You
Although
are.
the Christians won't see it, let's face it.
They even if they did see it, they don't care. They don't care because from their perspective, they are so convinced that they are doing what is right by God and what God would want that they just don't care. And that's what's one of the things that's so frustrating.
Okay, I'll ask you as far as that goes because you came from that world. And I was talking to Lilith Liberated a few weeks ago, and I got her opinion of how this works. When you were in that world, how sincerely did these folks believe that they were doing the right thing? In other words, what was the possibility that they were simply using their religious doctrine as a screen for their bigotry?
I think that's certainly very possible, and um, I think that's more of a thing in the evangelical world. Within what I grew up in, sure, Catholics, they're against birth control and things like that, which is ridiculous. They're against abortion. But there is more, I guess I grew up with more care for people and philanthropy than a lot of the evangelicals. The evangelicals are like slam you over the head with the Bible until you do what I say. Because God said do it that way. Catholics aren't really like that, and Catholicism has many, many problems.
Oh
Many
yeah,
problems.
tell me. Well, I don't know if you know, I'm an ex-Catholic.
I
So,
didn't,
yeah,
but
so I have some idea, but you're a more recent ex-Catholic than I am, I take it, because I gave up Catholicism about 40 years ago.
yeah, I know. I went to so the last time I guess I was 18. I'm 35, so
Child.
I so I was 18 when I left home. And after I left home, I only went to church a couple of times, and that was basically just on Christmas or Easter when I had to go with the family. And that was only for the first couple of years after. So it's been a while, but it's it definitely has its own problems. The whole priest molestation, all of the things that happen, that's its own issue. But in regards to this kind of stuff and sincerely believing they're doing the right thing, I think in Catholicism they're not as extremist. So they do think that they're doing the right things. I think most of them probably think that they're doing the right things, and a lot of people really do care about people. And I never saw it as pushing my faith on someone else, because when we would go feed at soup kitchens and when we would go build, like I would leave home for a while in each summer and go build homes in southeastern Kentucky in Harlan. I don't know if you know, Harlan County was the poorest county in the country, and so
Now, where is Harlan County in Kentucky?
it's in the very southeast corner
Any major
by
cities near it?
oh no, no, there is nothing near it.
Oh, okay, okay. So, sorry, guys in the side chat, we can't use that to help out. I'm going to go look for a map. Keep going.
Okay. um, but we would go there and we would lay pipelines for so they could put water, water system in, and sewage, and we would help people who already had houses redo their roofs, repaint them, build porches, build handicapped ramps and things like that. And we would do all that kind of stuff. So we did a lot of good work, and never, at least that I experienced, I never saw anyone proselytizing ever to the people that we were helping.
Okay.
So that was my personal experience. But I know evangelicals, they do work in the community, but they do proselytize. And I've seen that. I've witnessed that happening. It's like you go to a soup kitchen and the person who's coming doesn't have food to eat that night. And so in order to get food to eat that night, they have to sit there and listen to somebody talk about Jesus. Maybe they like that. Maybe they don't. I don't know, but I think I don't know. I don't know how much of it is to push people into their religion and how much of it is actually to do the right thing. So go south, east of Daniel Boone National Forest.
Yes, the light area I'm pointing to, if you guys can see this, it appears to straddle the Kentucky-Virginia border, does it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, is the Harlan County that Kaitlyn is talking about. And yeah, that's not the most affluent area in the entire world. I guess the largest city near there would be Knoxville, Tennessee. Knoxville's down this way.
Yeah, I see where Knoxville is. Yeah, that would be the largest, the closest large city.
Yeah, and that's
I don't know Kingsport.
That's Knoxville is no Boston, let me tell you. Yeah, that's what you're dealing with there, and it's amazing, as you say, that the poorest of the people aren't getting the help, if you will. I'm going to stop sharing this, guys, so we can bring Kaitlyn's beauty back to everybody.
So I really don't know how much is genuine and how much is really just trying to force, because evangelical is not something I grew up in, and I feel like that's the worst of it.
Now, you had mentioned that you grew up in Ohio. Have you been following what they've been up to besides what we've already talked about? Is there anything they're doing?
Well, besides the more recent, once they passed their fetal heartbeat bill, which I don't know if you know, Pro-Lib show is what it's called, the Progressive Liberal show on YouTube, the Progressive Liberal, if you want to look it up. They did a show, a video on the fetal heartbeat. Okay. And talked about it a little bit. And so the fetal heartbeat bills, once they passed that law, it basically bans any abortion once a fetal heartbeat is detected, which is not actually a heartbeat, by the way.
Right. And that's what I was hoping we'd get into.
Yeah, it's not actually a heartbeat, but once they can detect that, it's an electrical pulse.
Yeah, there isn't even a heart to beat at that point, isn't that the case?
No. Yeah, no, there's not a heart. It's not a developed heart. That's not what it is.
Kaitlyn, if you have a link, could you drag it up? Because I'm having a hard time finding it.
Let me see.
But fly with this that you're going into.
So once they pass that, and that in the Ohio bill we already kind of touched on, they don't have exceptions for rape or incest, and now they want to go after the insurance companies to make sure the insurance companies can't cover like IUDs.
Oh, yeah.
So they're doing that kind of stuff to make sure that Plan B, anything that would prevent implantation once the egg is fertilized, Plan B would not be able to be covered by insurance. So now they're going after even more shit.
Oh no.
And it's like, it's terrible.
Are they going after the methods to prevent release of an egg yet?
I don't know. I actually just saw the thing about that bill this morning, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what they've done there.
Yeah, I'm just curious. If you do mind my asking, just tell me. You say you grew up in Ohio. Whereabouts?
Just south of Dayton, like in between Dayton and Cincinnati.
Oh, you're in the other corner. I grew up in Cleveland.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And yeah, it's rather red in that neighborhood, is it not?
Little bit, little bit. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes they swing though. Sometimes they do swing, but um, it's pretty red. Yeah, it's very Catholic in the area where I grew up. Okay, I found the video.
Oh, yay,
I,
yay.
I put it in our group chat on Hangouts,
Yeah. Tell you what, could you say
and I
something in
can
the
put it
side chat, and I can give you a spanner, and that way you
okay,
could post.
a link.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, a very good thing. It is a very good thing. It is a very good thing to post the link that
But
Kaitlyn
Ohio,
has now.
what's interesting is that Ohio. Oh, I think it let me do it. Um, but yeah,
Okay,
they do all kinds of crazy shit in Ohio, and I don't really understand it.
well, I'll tell you what I can do.
I think it posted in the chat over there,
In
like
the
in
um, in the
the YouTube
internal
chat.
or in the
No,
YouTube, because I was looking there and I didn't happen to see anything,
uh,
but of course I may be looking in the wrong place
can
here
anyone?
because I'm not
Oh, I
seeing
have
your name anywhere.
oh, hold on.
Say hi in the side chat if you don't mind. There you go. I'll give you a spanner,
Okay, and then
and
I'll go ahead and
and
put
then
the
you'll
link.
go. Okay, you're set to go. Fire away, kid.
Oh shit! There we go.
Yay! That's a good thing. Yeah, it's even there twice. Just
Yeah,
for good measure, we've got it in there another time.
yeah. It didn't actually show that it sent the first time, so I had sent it another time thinking it wasn't there, and it was just on a little bit of a delay.
Okay, fine. Yay. Yeah, like I say, we've got a bit of a latency going here that always does that, and unfortunately, it's just the way it goes. What have we got here from Tony Designs? Not just talking homosexuality. If the initials EZLC mean anything to you, I was his voice. Tony, can you go into that? Because I'm sorry to say the initials aren't ringing any bells. What else do we have going here, Kaitlyn?
Um, let's see. I actually pulled up an article that has what's going on with everything, what states, because they're starting to do it everywhere. It's
Yes, that's a really crazy thing,
yeah.
and
Um,
and this is
let's see.
what makes me frightened.
Yeah,
I was talking, was it to Luciano or was it to somebody else recently? With the number of states that are hopping on this thing, is
yeah.
there the possibility that if Roe v. Wade isn't overturned next week or next month, they're going to try for a constitutional amendment? Because
I
remember, with all the states, they're
well,
starting to get close to the number of states you need.
well, I don't think I don't think they have the support. I think there are too many Democrats. I do not think that the constitutional amendment would be possible. I don't think. I also didn't think Trump would be elected, and here we are.
Uh huh.
So I don't know
That's
if I'm the best judge of things, but I don't know. I don't. I really don't think that that is an option for them. I think there's just far too much opposition for that, and it'll take so long. Like this whole process is going to take so long that there's no way that they're going to get through the Supreme Court and be able to try to do a constitutional convention, because they have to have a constitutional convention in order to do a constitutional amendment.
Well, not
Uh,
necessarily. Remember, I mean, it can go through the House and Senate just as a regular bill does. The difference being that once that's passed, it still has to be ratified.
well, when they do the ratification, don't they have to have a convention?
It goes to the states for ratification. Well, at least last I checked. I hope nobody's changed the rules.
I don't know that one has happened in my lifetime. I don't think one has happened in my lifetime. So I'm not
Uh,
really sure how that works. I've never been through that.
yeah, this is the thing. I'm going to look up amendment process steps. Okay,
So
here we go. Amending the U.S. Constitution. It's a PDF. Indiana's model legislation. Well, that kind of is in the news, isn't it? Okay, what have we got? Okay,
Oh my.
amending the U.S. Constitution. Article 5 provides two paths. Path 1, Step 1, two-thirds of both houses of Congress pass a proposed constitutional amendment. This sends the proposed amendment to the states for ratification. Step 2, three-quarters of the states ratify the proposed amendment either by their legislatures or special ratifying conventions. Path 2, Step 1, two-thirds of state legislators ask for Congress to call a convention for proposing amendments. Step 2, states send delegates to this convention where they can propose amendments to the Constitution. Step 3, three-quarters of the states ratify an amendment approved by the convention for proposing amendments, either by their legislatures or special ratifying conventions. Yeah, so you've got those two. Either,
Yeah.
one, it's like a regular bill,
Mhm.
and this is the one that has been used so far. Path
Yeah.
2, the convention, it has not yet been done here in the U.S. There are people trying. The TYT people, for example, are trying to push for a convention to propose an amendment to get big money out of elections. And then the far right is also drooling over a convention because they would have an open-ended process to propose whatever amendments they want, to limit freedoms, etc., etc.
Well, here's the good news. No matter what process they take, they have to have three-quarters of the states.
Yeah,
They aren't going to have that. That's
yeah,
just not going to happen. So that's why, I mean, this is not an issue that any Democratic state is ever going to go along with. And there are Republican states that are more moderate that will never go along with this. So,
yeah.
you know,
If you would, there have been some pieces of legislation taken up to not limit but help guarantee reproductive rights, and I think at least one of those states is a moderate Republican state. Do you have a list of those states at hand?
no, but I can look it up.
Oh, yay! That would be a very, very good thing. And while you're doing that, pure extension, how about the sterilization requirement? Is this is crazy as far as the sterilization goes. We've got two things going on here. I got my tubes tied 35 years ago. Okay, first of all, it was 35 years ago. And second of all, everybody thought I was a guy at the time. So I had an easy time. Walk in. Hi, I'd like a vasectomy. Okay, can we do it now or do you want to schedule later? Now anymore, I don't know if that's still the case, for the guys. But for the girls, oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. The
Yeah,
people to whom you've got to go.
yeah, it's pretty terrible that men can just do whatever the fuck they want. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Is is
Oh,
is
go
testing?
for it. I'm never going to be monetized.
I mean, men can do literally whatever they want with their penises. I mean, yes, you legally you can't rape people and all those other kinds of things, right? But like they can go and get a vasectomy. They can go and get a vasectomy reversed without telling anybody. Like they can go and do all kinds of things. But women, now let's make sure that we control their uterus.
Yeah, yeah. Um, a
Madness.
a friend of one of my exes lost a baby, or I shouldn't say lost a baby. Sorry about that. I really didn't mean to put it that way. She lost a fetus. I mean,
Mhm.
the thing wasn't born yet. So, and the whole thing was she very probably drank it to death. So when that happened, her partner ran off to get a vasectomy, and he could do it without her even knowing that he had done it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so this is where
is
you've
his
got.
right, or which is his right. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's his right. It should a healthy couple, the people in a healthy relationship have conversations about those things? Yes. Is it the government's like place to tell a person that they can't because they haven't had that conversation? No. Like it's not. I don't know. And here's, it's interesting that you bring that up because there's a lot of emotion that is involved in this topic. So when you said she lost a baby, a lot of people do in in a colloquial sense call it their baby, like I'm having a baby. They'll hold their hand over their baby and they'll buy their baby things. And
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
but you have to figure out a way to separate because women who want to have children, that's ideally, not always, going to be their baby. And so obviously they're emotionally connected to it. There's a difference between that and the science behind it and what it actually is. When you find out that you're pregnant, it's like cells, like it's smaller than a bean. And
Yes.
it doesn't have arms, it doesn't have legs, it doesn't have a brain or a heart or eyeballs. Like it's it's not a baby. But when you find out you're pregnant, it's and you're happy about it, it's we're going to have a baby. You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
have to be able to separate the two things. They're not the same.
Yeah, and a lot of that is wishful thinking too, because in the midst of the pregnancy there could be a miscarriage, and they don't have their baby. I had a cousin who did that 4 times before she
Yeah.
finally produced a viable kid.
Yeah.
And okay, if you're listening, Kathy, I think 4 miscarriages should have said something to you, but we're not going to go into that right now. We'll go into that later. Uh, yeah, so there's that whole thing with the language. So yeah,
I Go ahead.
I get that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I have to watch my language here because if we don't, we're going to be playing into the crazy right's hands, and they're going to be jumping all over us for it. Uh,
Yeah, and it's unreasonable. It's an unreasonable expectation, or an unreasonable to think that, people who are liberal and pro-choice, or even people who are conservative and pro-choice, because there are some of those
yes,
too,
there are, believe
um,
it or not.
they can they can both be pro-choice and both have an understanding of the biology and of a fetus and what it is. And to me, like, the science is not clear on exactly when things are things specifically, but in from my personal opinion, if it could live, if it was born that day and could live outside of the womb, with even if it needed like reasonable medical help at that point,
Hmm.
I think that if it's viable, then at that point, I don't think, unless there's something seriously wrong or to save the life of a mother, I don't think it's morally right at that point. Um, but that happens quite late, you know.
Yeah, and there's the interesting thing there too. Where the hell is this stuff coming from with Republican legislators droning on about late term abortions, where they say that we on the left are promoting this? Where the hell are they getting that? Because it's not happening. We're
Well,
not
so
doing that.
the guy, the guy who did blackface, the governor of, I guess, Virginia, Northam, the guy who the yearbook, the blackface yearbook guy.
Oh, him. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I can't remember his name either, so don't
Yeah,
shoot
I
me.
think it's North something or other. But anyway, he was talking at some kind of thing, and he was referring to late term, and you can call it an abortion if you want, late term pregnancy termination kind of things, or even when what he was exactly referring to was when a baby is born and it's not viable, it will not survive. Okay. And the choice that the parents have to make at that point. And so that's that's the specific thing he was talking about when he was like, because I think you probably saw the tweet where Trump is like, the baby will be born and then they'll wrap it in a wonderful blanket
Yeah,
and
that
then
one.
decide whether or not to execute it. Okay,
Yeah, that
so
one.
that's not the case. It was a case that he was specifically talking about babies who are born. and there is some sort of significant issue and they will not survive, they will give the child medical care until such a time when the parents decide what they want to do. And so that's specifically what they were talking about. And so that, I think that's part of where they get that the left likes this. But I looked at some Alabama stats, and I think last year there were 3 considered late term abortions, and they were all because the mother was going to die if they didn't do it. So
Yeah, I mean, we can see the necessity there. Yeah.
it is such a small percentage. Well over half of abortions in the state of Alabama I don't know if it was last year or 2017. I can't remember exactly when the things were. I think it was last year. Well over half of them were done prior to 8 weeks. So it's more than half, like 60 or 70% of the people who were having abortions, it was the first time they'd had an abortion. And so this isn't something that the majority of people, or even a lot of people, are using as birth control. Now, nobody likes abortion. It's not something that anybody likes. It's sometimes a necessity for
Yes,
some people.
I remember personally a case where that happened because my wife was in a position where things were starting to go pear-shaped, and this was at about 16 weeks. Her doctor told her, "Look, lady, it's going to be the fetus or both of you."
Yeah.
And yeah, she was still kind of broken up about it, but it was one of those things where, okay, yeah, got to do this. If I want to remain alive, I've got to do this, and I'm totally behind her, in that sort of thing. And yeah, so even though here we are, a couple of atheists and a couple of pro-choice folks, it was still a bit of an agonizing thing. Yeah.
Sure, it's horrifying. And the thing is that when a couple like you all go to the clinic or go to the hospital, wherever you need to go in your local area that will do a pregnancy termination, there are protesters that talk to you like you're a whore and like you're a terrible human. And it's like, you're already going through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't need that. Like, but that's another thing. They're not pro-life. They don't give a fuck about what you're going through or why
Right.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
They literally only care about the fetus, even though if she hadn't had an abortion, or even if the pregnancy had not been terminated at that time, not only would the fetus have died, but so would have she. So
Right.
so there's a lot of circumstances like that, and they don't consider that at all.
Yeah. And the whole thing there is, how can somebody be so callous? How can somebody be so cruel? Now, keep in mind, guys, that this is a rhetorical question. We already know that that's what they're doing. It's just, I would like to have one of them or more of them on this show to ask them to their legislative faces why. I want to know why.
Yeah.
But, okay. Anyway, we're at about the top of the hour here. So I had asked you earlier, Kaitlyn, do you mind sticking around a little bit for an after show?
Sure.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Everybody in the side chat, I put up a link for that wonderful after show. If you guys could start going over there, and I'm going to ask you, Kaitlyn, to let everybody know, what are you up to in your future?
What am I up to? Well, I am almost finished with my master's degree in systems engineering.
Yay!
Yeah. So I have the class I'm in, a summer class, and then one other class after that. So there's that, and I don't know, pretty much just work and school and hanging out with the husband and the kid, and so not a whole lot.
Anything interesting online, or how's that going?
Well, I do Opinionated. It's a show on the Non Sequitur channel where we have different creators come in, and it's just really chill. We don't do debates or anything like that. We just hang out, get to know new creators. We had a wonderful new creator on last week called X Cult Baby. She's former Jehovah's Witness, and she was amazing. She has a new channel. And so, we talk to newer creators, we talk to bigger creators, and just, shoot the shit. And so we do that. I'll start doing Kaitlyn's or Casey's Corner episodes and the Today I Learned episodes probably again sometime late fall after I finish my school. Because it's been very difficult to keep up with school, work, family stuff, and the online world as well.
Yeah, I see that.
I have to ask you something. Did you mean to post that join link right in the main chat?
No, I did not. I screwed that one up. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Well, sorry to me in case anybody joins.
All right, well, I'm going to take off till an after show if that's what you want.
If you want to hang around, we're heading off to an after show presently. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere.
Okay.
Just stick around. And what I'm going to do, folks, is try to get the right one into the side chat here. Yeah, I'm having one of those days, let's face it. That one ought to work. Yeah, so at least I know the one thing that did work out for this is that I know that link to join actually works because I took that from the little people person thing up in the top of the chat.
That John showed you before?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So at least we know that works. And okay, let's make sure that I have. Okay, so I see Morton Nielsen is waiting in the after show. That's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. What else was it that you had going on? And let's see. Do I have the place to find you over here? No, I do not. Oh my word! I am so sorry. I did not put a link to your channel in the description this time.
Yeah, so I have all of anything that I'm in, I have linked on my channel. I don't actually have content on loaded onto my channel, mainly because my content is on the Godless Engineer channel and on the Non Sequitur show channel. So, but everything is linked on my channel, and I also have a section where it's linked to shows I've been on. So I'll pull this one too and link it.
Oh yay! That's a very good thing. And slap me down because I screwed that one up, babe. Wait a minute. Could I paste only the YouTube number and not the link stuff? What do you mean, hon? Jen?
Oh, I think I know. Like the video number, the part where it says V equals, I think that's what's meant.
Oh.
Like that. I just posted it to the chat. I think that's what's being asked for.
Okay, fine. That's great. That's absolutely fun and wonderful. Yeah, I see we've got that done twice. Thanks, Brian, as well. Okay, let's wrap this one up, and then we'll head over to the after show. We'll just take a minute for me to get the sweet stuff to put in my coffee cup, because I've been actually drinking this stuff straight, which I usually don't do. Well, I grew up drinking straight coffee. I'm 10 years old, drinking black without sugar, without milk, the whole bit. So that's why I'm all screwed up at this point. It just kind of affected my my biochemistry like that. Thanks, Kaitlyn, for coming on today, really and truly. And okay, we're going to set up, and we're going to head to the wonderful after show. There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, everybody on the side. Thank you for coming over. And we're going to head over to the side chat. And thank you, everybody who's here. Thank you, everybody who's not here. Thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side. Now let's go to the thank you screen.